Hi, I'm Marie Bliston, President of the New Jersey Education Association. The NJEA is committed to celebrating excellence in education. That's why we're so proud to support Teacher Appreciation Week, a special series produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating New Jersey's talented and dedicated teachers.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the New Jersey Education Association, Investors Bank, Hackensack Meridian Health, Verizon. Choose New Jersey. Our mission is attracting companies to the Garden State. New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation. And by Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey. Promotional support provided by Jaffe Communications, where business, media, and government converge in New Jersey. And by Commerce Magazine.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are, there is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No. People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. This is One-on-One. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce one of the great educators in the state and the nation. She is Terry Kuhnreich, and she's at Vineland High School. She teaches an elective course called Search for Conscience, which is?
Which is an incredible course. It's a history elective. We're controversial, we're edgy, we're off the grid in terms of how I teach, how the kids respond, how we work together.
You created it?
No, actually, I wish I had created it. It was a survivor's son and an assistant superintendent and a fellow teacher who created the course. It's Holocaust-based.
Holocaust-based?
Yes, Holocaust and Genocide, and it was established in 1976. I was still a student there, and there was nothing for Holocaust education at the time. We're one of the early, exactly, pioneers.
And you know, the way we found out about you was with through our colleagues at the New Jersey Education Association.
They're great to work with.
And you were part of Classroom Close-Up. So let's take a look at a clip from a Classroom Close-Up special about this initiative, and we'll talk after this.
Absolutely.
Being a man of vast experience, I've never been in a courtroom before. I never tried a case before. I said, of course. And so it came about historically that one little 27-year-old guy with no experience whatsoever became the chief prosecutor in what was certainly the biggest murder trial in human history.
Meet Benjamin Ferencz, Harvard Law School graduate, World War II veteran, and chief prosecutor for the United States in the Einsatzgruppen case just after the end of the war, when 22 senior leaders of the paramilitary Nazi death squads were charged with murdering over 1 million people. All the defendants were convicted. It was Ben's first case.
Lesson of the story, be bold, kids. If you know you're right, do it, even if it's never been done before. And that has always been my attitude, and that's why I'm still working at it at the age of 98.
That's right, 70 years after his first trial, Ben continues to work tirelessly toward a more humane and secure world. Today, he's a guest in Terry Kuhnreich's Search for Conscience class here at Vineland High School.
We cover a wide variety of topics, but everything, all roads lead back to the Holocaust. We discuss diversity and racism and prejudice and hatred. We connect it to what's going on today.
It's one of the most popular electives at the high school. And for Terry Kuhnreich, it's personal.
It hits deeper. My parents were survivors. My father had a lot of strength, my mother very bright. My whole world was growing up with survivors. They gave me life lessons that can't be taught in a book. The constant among all the survivors was the concept of hope.
Good morning, how are you?
I am great. How are you? Is that the end of your question?
No. Okay, if you were to go back and change anything, what would you change?
What I would do is I would say stop war making. That's the biggest crime of all. So I would make all wars a crime against humanity. And I need help for the young people to get that idea across in order to save your lives.
I'm going to remember him, and I'm going to remember never give up on anything. Anything I ever want to do in life, never give up.
Don't forget to do it now.
Okay.
There is still genocide today, and a lot of people tend to brush it off their shoulder if it doesn't involve them. But, you know, it's something that needs to be talked about because it doesn't matter your race, religion, sexuality, color, just people are people.
I worked for 50 or 60 years to create a permanent international criminal court, to carry on the work which had been done by the courts at Nuremberg.
You can see in his face the history that he's witnessed. He's stuck with his beliefs. Through years and years and years of sticking with his belief, he's making a difference.
That is extraordinary.
Yeah,
Ben Ferenz,
yeah,
90...
incredible. 7 years old. Yeah.
What did you see in the students as they were listening to him?
Before he came, I did a lesson on the Einsatzgruppen because that is who he handled at Nuremberg trial. So when he actually was on the big screen, tears. They were so emotionally, they were already emotionally connected to him through our history.
As the chief prosecutor in that case.
He was, regarding the Einsatzgruppen, what happened was he served with General Patton, he was at D-Day, he was at Liberation, and he fell upon what's called the Teutobucher, which is the death books, and he ran to the lead prosecutor and said, we have to prosecute, we have to get these people. And they didn't have the money, they didn't have the men, and the guy said, well, then you do it. And that was his first court. Yeah, amazing.
For you as an educator, with the personal connection you have to the Holocaust, what's this like for you?
Incredible. It really is. He touched a piece of history that I've been hearing about my entire life. I grew up with it. My parents had it very hard. My in-laws, my husband's parents, also survivors. And Vineland had a large survivors population, so that's my world. That was my world growing up. And sadly, they're disappearing. So it's very important that we keep it alive.
What kind of lessons do you think students are taking away from this?
I would like them to understand you can disagree, but you can't be disagreeable. You can't give up. Always have hope. I don't like the word tolerance. I like the word acceptance.
Difference?
Difference
What's
works.
the difference?
The difference is...
No, the difference between tolerance and acceptance is?
Tolerance, I put up with you. Acceptance, I take you the way you are. And that's what I want people to see.
What's it like for you and your students to see the degree of divisiveness, nastiness, personal animus that goes on in our quote-unquote political discourse all across our nation, and you're teaching this?
We discuss it. Both sides are incorrect. There's no one side. You have to learn to listen. Nobody listens. Everybody's talking over the other person. You need to hear. You need to not come to judgment too quickly. Have to do a little research on your own and find those answers if you don't like what you're hearing.
So it's interesting. It's about the Holocaust, but it's also about racism.
Definitely.
It's about intolerance.
Absolutely.
It's about prejudice.
Yes.
It's persecution.
Yes. All of the above. Sexual orientation. We go into all of that. Teen pregnancy.
All relevant today.
All connected. Everything goes back. How can I have you understand the Holocaust if you don't understand your own set of issues? So we have to dig deep. We have to make sure you're connected.
You've been teaching for a few years now?
I've been, believe it or not, 18 years. I was school board president. I took a very strange route to this. I've had my degree since I was about 20. So did everything early. And I had a degree in nutrition when I was thin. So now I teach. It's a little easier.
You look great.
Thank you.
Last question. This Classroom Close-Up initiative.
Yes.
What was it like for you seeing it when it first hit?
It was wonderful. You know, the pride that you get from your children when they answer the questions with thought and they care. And then just seeing Ben Ferenz and the people were from New Jersey Classroom, they were tremendous. They made everything easy, just like you are. It was a pleasure to work with them, and it was very meaningful to me.
Yeah, the Classroom Close-Up people are terrific. They've won a ton of Emmy Awards.
Yes.
The NJA is to be credited for
Absolutely.
this initiative.
Very much so.
Yeah. We thank you.
Thank you.
One more time.
Absolutely.
Terry Kuhnreich is the teacher of an elective course at Vineland High School. It's called Search for Conscience. We thank you and all the public school teachers. I say this every time, but it doesn't get old. All the public school teachers who every day make a difference in the lives of our children, many children. Thanks so much.
Thank you, and we appreciate it. We really do.
Well done.
Thank you.
Be right back right after this.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We're pleased to welcome Andrew Parton, Executive Director of the Cradle of Aviation Museum, based in Long Island. Where?
Garden City, or East Garden City, Uniondale area.
What's the Long Island connection to all this?
Basically, if you go back, we're not the birthplace of aviation. It's where aviation kind of grew up. And a lot of it was the topography of Long Island is flat and windy, if you go back 100 years. And the biggest thing was we were close to the prize money, which was Manhattan. Most of the early aviators were big daredevils, and they basically migrated to Long Island for the prize money. And so that's where we became kind of that cradle.
You know, when I was getting ready for the show, I kept seeing the Charles Lindbergh connection to all this. Make it clear.
Well, Lindbergh took off from what was Roosevelt Field, which sat next to Mitchell Field, which is where the museum is based. You had that, the commercial airport and the military airport side by side. So Lindbergh, again.
What are we looking at right there?
We are looking at the first airplane that Charles Lindbergh ever owned. This is before the Spirit of St. Louis.
Before?
Before the Spirit of St. Louis.
You guys have it?
We have it. It was a World War I surplus. He bought it for a couple $100. And he was a barnstormer in the Midwest, which meant...
Tell people what that means.
Well, he flew around a small town, would kind of buzz the town, land in the middle of a field, and then he'd charge you a couple of dollars to go take a flight.
That's what Lindbergh did?
That's what Lindbergh did.
Before Lindbergh became Lindbergh?
Before he became Lindbergh. And he migrated to Long Island because, again, that's where the prize money was. It was to be the first to do things, first to fly across the country, first to fly the Atlantic. And Lindbergh was able to be the first to actually do it. A number of others tried, but you never hear about them.
You know, everyone knows about Lindbergh, but they don't know about, is it Harriet Quimby?
Harriet Quimby.
Who is that?
She was the first female licensed pilot in the United States. She was an actress by trade. But also was a bit of an attention seeker. So she came to Long Island, learned to fly an airplane, got her license, and was the first woman to fly the English Channel. And her big hope was that this was going to rocket her into stardom beyond the stage. Unfortunately, the day she crossed the English Channel was the day the Titanic sank.
That was the same day?
Yeah. So instead of being on the front page of every paper in the world, she was basically buried.
But it was a big deal.
Oh, it was a big deal. It was a big deal.
And the museum helps people understand that.
Yeah, we go through a lot of what we do. It's preservation of the history. It's education, so using the museum to educate kids about the science and technology and the people behind the aircraft. And then we use it to inspire. We hope to get kids interested in aviation and aerospace as a career path.
Do the aerospace piece. What do people see there? Aerospace
for us, most of it centers around the Apollo program.
Explain to people why that's so significant.
Well, if you look at that, the Wright brothers took off in 1903. Only 66 years later, we landed on the moon. And a lot of that technology and the engineering that was done by Grumman Aerospace on Long Island. All the lunar modules.
Grumman on Long Island.
Grumman on Long Island. All the lunar modules were built on Long Island. And we have one of the 3 that didn't go to the moon. The program was cut after Apollo 17, and there was plans for 18, 19, 20. So there's one at the Smithsonian, one at the Kennedy Space Center, and we are lucky enough to have one of those.
How'd you get into this?
I was in banking before, and I had a former client ask me to join the museum in a capacity, and I did, and became director about 11 years ago. So,
passion for you.
It is now, yeah. I've always been big on history, and the neat thing is that a lot of people have no idea of the history that Long Island and the role Long Island played in history in aviation.
Talk about history. World War II period in aviation.
Long Island produced more aircraft than any other place in the world.
In the world?
In the world for the war effort. Because you had Grumman and Republic, as well as a number of smaller manufacturers building aircraft constantly on Long Island.
What's the, Georgia, we have a picture. With the World War II Hellcat?
The
What does
Hellcat,
that
that's a picture of our World War II gallery. Grumman built the Hellcat, the Wildcat, and the Avenger. And this is a picture of the Avenger that sits in our World War II gallery. So they were churning out aircraft constantly. You know, the Rosie the Riveter is working at night and working during the day while the men were off to war. And at the height, Grumman employed roughly 30,000 people on Long Island in manufacturing.
There's a big science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM component to this. Talk about it.
Well, we use the museum's collection, the aircraft and artifacts, to really teach STEM.
How do you do that?
We do a lot of hands-on learning for the kids, so they're in classroom settings, and then they'll go into the museum to use the aircraft and the artifacts to illustrate that theory. You know, whether it's the speed of aircraft, and there's a program that the FAA does that we use called Fly by Math. So it's how do you get aircraft to go different distances with different weights and different fuel to get in on time.
So kids could actually, young people, students, could actually get into this because they're fascinated by the museum.
Well, that's what we're hoping. We call it the 3 missions is preservation, education, and inspiration. And if a school group comes in or one of our high school programs works where the light bulb goes off in a kid's head and he gets excited about aviation or aerospace and the future of aerospace, then we can help connect them with local companies.
Before I let you out of here, we have a shot of the planetarium, if we could. Let's go to it. Tell us about the planetarium.
Planetarium is in our Dome Theater. It's a 300-seat theater, and we use that to try to get you really excited about aerospace and future travel.
That is awesome. Listen, we appreciate you sharing the story with us, and I know we have a big audience on Long Island as well who will appreciate it, but everyone in the region is invited to go visit the Cradle of Aviation Museum out in Long Island, East Garden City.
Right, Charles Lindbergh Boulevard.
Is that really the name?
Yeah, that's the name of the street.
That is so
we're
awesome. Andrew Parton, I thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for everything.
Well done. Be right back right after this.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We're pleased to welcome Dr. Maureen Gillette, Dean of the College of Education and Human Services at Seton Hall University. Good to see you, Doctor.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here, Steve.
We're both, let's disclose, we're both Seton Hall Pirate fans, basketball team.
We are. We follow basketball. That's where I met you the first time. So
that's right. Glad to meet you here now, and wish for a good season for Seton Hall next year. But let's get to education. You have a very clear philosophy of what it takes to educate our children, particularly in urban schools. Talk about it.
So I was a teacher for 12 years before I decided to go back to graduate school and to get a doctorate, feeling like I could make a bigger impact working with people who wanted to be teachers. So I grew up in the second largest city in Illinois on the east side of Aurora, and was pretty familiar with the kinds of issues that urban schools address, and worked with a diversity of kids and developed my own philosophy about working with parents, community, family, community agencies for the betterment of kids to be sure they are academically successful, social and emotionally successful. So I've spent my lifetime in this business, and it's why I get up in the morning.
Let's talk about this. If I were to ask you, and there are many more than this, Doctor, but 3 keys to successfully educating our students in urban areas include?
So I think number 1 is schools need strong leaders and strong teachers. One big issue in urban schools today is there's a lot of instability, there's a lot of school closures, and I don't know how you went to school, but I walked to my neighborhood school.
North New Jersey, walked every day.
So I'm a big advocate of neighborhood schools so that kids have teachers and principals who know them, know their families, understand the issues in the community. That's what I've been researching and working on for the last 20 years. So I think we try to prepare our teachers to first and foremost get to know kids and families. You can't teach kids you don't know. You can't help families if you don't know what they're going through. And so stabilizing urban schools by connecting with kids and families. If you look across the nation, the most successful urban schools are the ones where the parents are involved, the community's involved, the teachers and principals are there for the long run. They're not coming in and out every couple of years, and they're really committed to being sure the kids are successful.
Go back to the parenting part. I've often, after doing this program in the spring of 2018, working on my wife and I separately working on a language arts project for our 13-year-old who's in the Montclair schools as we speak right now. And she's helping him edit it, and then he types it out, and then I'm editing, and I'm saying, Chris, but Mom just didn't you incorporate that into it? And here's my point. What advice do you have for those of us who want the best, well, that's all of us, for our children, but try to find the balance between looking for excellence, the best our kids can do, and not, dare I just say, getting frustrated?
Right. Yeah, it's hard.
So I know it's not just me.
And every kid is different. And so, you come from a family of four.
They learn differently?
Yeah, definitely. Even within the same family, kids have different learning styles, learning interests. And so I know that parents get frustrated, but I think in today's world, schools are hooked up to parents. There are websites often that parents can go on.
Technology helps?
Yeah, technology helps a lot, yeah. And in some urban communities that we talked about where parents don't have access to the internet. So we find a lot of kids and families have the devices. They have a smartphone, they have an iPad, but sometimes they don't have access to internet at home, and that's detrimental. But going back to your question, I think, I did the same thing. I was a teacher, and my daughter is a writer today, but I made her cry often, editing her paper, Steve,
So a teacher, parent, editing your daughter's paper who became a writer.
Right.
I'm sure it's not a total accident. Challenging?
Really challenging, yeah. She's a science writer, and science was not my forte. And I really, once she got to high school chemistry and physics, I couldn't help her with that. But I know what good writing is. At some point, they have to stand on their own. That you have to let them, dare I say, I don't want to say fail, but, I always, if my child came home, like I'm going to tell you, she did come home at the beginning of first week of every school and say, you need to let me out of AP Math. And I'd say, why? She goes, I'm going to fail. Just let me out. Let me out of it right now. And so we would have the talk about, look at all the hard things you've done in your life. You've done this, and you didn't want to do it, or it was hard at first, but you succeeded. And so helping your child work through those times when they're not as successful, and saying we pick ourselves up, we dust ourselves off, and we keep going, and giving them that confidence to move on.
I think about, the kind of parent you were then, and the kind of committed you are to education. How much more challenging is it for kids in urban areas without the socioeconomic means, sometimes without the family structure that we're talking about right now, and two parents there sometimes, but with one parent working 2-3 jobs? How much harder is that for a kid?
It's really hard, and I always ask our pre-service teachers, how much do kids have to change to meet the expectations of school, and how much should school think about changing to meet the needs of families today? So one of the things we want to do is help our students understand that housing instability, food insecurity, job insecurity, safety in the neighborhoods, all those impact on.
Are they educational issues?
Of course.
How?
Yeah, because kids can't learn if they're hungry. Kids can't learn if they're afraid they're going to get beat up on the way to school.
Or get evicted.
Or get evicted. Speaking of which, we did our One Book, One College with the book Evicted this year, and we had Matt Desmond come to campus and give a talk, but all of our students studied that book Evicted and talked about, what does that have to do with my job as a teacher if the kid doesn't come to school tomorrow because he got thrown out of his house today. So, I think that it's incumbent upon us to prepare our school leaders, because we do principal preparation, as you know, school counselors, school psychologists, teachers. Even we have a law enforcement program, law enforcement officials. How do we work together instead of separate? How do we work together for the betterment of kids?
I think it was 5 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, I actually taught a weekend course, the doctoral program for, really it was educational, I think it was called administration, but it's really educational leadership. Those who were teachers, principals, moving up, superintendents, key roles. That's important because you talked about leadership before.
Right, it's really important. And you know, if you think about good schools, what we know from the research is the principal is instructional leader, as role model for the teachers. If the principal's in the community, the teachers are going to say, oh, I need to, you know, be out there understanding what's going on. And so my work in Chicago was really around some of the most challenged neighborhoods in Chicago by all these issues: violence, food insecurity, housing insecurity, safety issues. And I think we did an amazing job, and that's what we're working on here. I mean, we have schools we work with in Newark. We have schools we work in with South Orange Maplewood, where the community is working on these issues too.
Well done. This is Dr. Maureen Gillette, Dean of College of Education and Human Services at Seton Hall University. We thank you so much. Well done.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Catch you next time, folks.
Yeah.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the New Jersey Education Association, Investors Bank, Hackensack Meridian Health, Verizon, Choose New Jersey, New Jersey Sharing Network, and by Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
I could feel my lungs fill with oxygen, and I got my life back.
The Sharing Network means to me hope, life, and everything.
The Sharing Network was a lifeline to me when I really needed it.
We are an organ procurement organization.
The core purpose of the New Jersey Sharing Network is to save and enhance lives.
To honor those who gave.
Pay tribute to those who received.
Offer hope to those who continue to wait.
And remember the lives lost while waiting.
For the gift of life.